Part 49 begins with the undeniable truth that some hearings resonate long after the gavel falls, not for dramatic sound bites, but for the precedents they quietly establish. The encounter between Jasmine Crockett and Pam Bondi is precisely such a moment. The presence of Jeffrey Epstein cast a shadow that turned ordinary procedural questioning into a high-stakes exploration of moral responsibility and institutional integrity. Crockett's insistence on naming and validating survivors acted like a relentless pulse, reminding all present that legal explanations alone cannot substitute for human acknowledgement. Bondi's steady reliance on precedent and statutory interpretation functioned as a stabilizing force, emphasizing that institutions maintain their credibility by adhering to procedural boundaries. In that delicate balance, the audience saw the anatomy of accountability laid bare. Intensity met structure, emotion met legality, and confrontation became a teaching moment for all observers. The significance of this exchange lies in how it delineated the dual pillars of oversight. Crockett's approach underscored that moral recognition is an indispensable component of legitimacy. Without explicit acknowledgement of harm, procedural compliance rings hollow. Bondi's approach underscored that legal and historical context is equally indispensable. Fair judgment depends on evaluating past actions within the constraints that existed at the time. The tension between these pillars, moral urgency versus procedural rigor, is rarely resolved easily, yet the hearing rendered it tangible, forcing both participants and viewers to confront how accountability is enacted in practice. Psychologically, the exchange revealed the public's dual expectation of governance. Epstein's legacy evokes both outrage and skepticism, demanding that institutions demonstrate moral responsiveness. Crockett embodied that expectation, translating collective frustration into pointed questioning. Bondi embodied a complementary expectation that institutions remain consistent, principled, and bound by rules, even under public pressure. This juxtaposition illustrated a universal democratic challenge, balancing the immediacy of ethical demand with the stability of systemic process, and it explained why the hearing resonated so widely across diverse audiences. The optics reinforced the lesson. Crockett's intensity signaled alignment with the public's moral imperative, asserting that acknowledgement cannot be deferred or abstracted. Bondi's calm signaled that credibility and fairness are grounded in consistency and lawful context. The combination demonstrated that accountability is both substantive and perceptual. It is the articulation of responsibility and the projection of legitimacy simultaneously. Observers learned that public trust depends not only on what institutions do, but on how they communicate responsibility under scrutiny. The implications extend into institutional culture. Future hearings will demand that acknowledgement of human impact be explicit. Witnesses will prepare not only for procedural questioning, but for ethical scrutiny. Lawmakers will refine their methods to ensure that moral and procedural dimensions are both addressed. Over time, these incremental adjustments shape norms, embedding lessons learned into the operational DNA of oversight. This is how democratic systems evolve, slowly, persistently, through calibrated moments that redefine expectation without immediate fanfare. Resilience, as demonstrated, is rooted in containment of tension. The confrontation was sharp, yet the procedural framework remained intact. Crockett pressed with intensity. Bondi held the structure steady. The lesson is clear. Tension, when managed within established boundaries, clarifies responsibilities and reinforces legitimacy instead of eroding it. The audience witnessed a live demonstration of conflict harnessed productively, a blueprint for navigating future institutional challenges. Ultimately, the lasting insight is that accountability is inherently multidimensional. It requires ongoing negotiation between moral clarity and procedural integrity, empathy and legality, passion and restraint. The Crockett-Bondi exchange exemplifies how effective democracy operates, not through silence or avoidance, but through visible, structured engagement with tension. Citizens watching are challenged to carry forward these standards, insist on acknowledgement, demand context, and uphold expectations that institutions balance moral and procedural responsibilities. The hearing concluded, but the recalibration it initiated continues to ripple through policy, public perception, and institutional culture, setting a standard for what meaningful accountability must look like in practice.